Good evening and welcome to another episode of HC Highlanders Live. I'm Associate AD Jason Muker, joined by Athletics Director Matthew Webb. And just want to give you a little warning. We are actually not live. There have been some shows, I don't know if you've noticed, where we haven't been live. But this is, due to our special guest today, it would have been very hard to be live with them. And Matt will explain a little bit as we get to that point as well. Not sure where we left off the last time when we were with you. We took a week off, but since then the campus quieted down quite a bit since the planned departure of all the students and the shift to entirely virtual learning for the rest of the semester through up until Christmas break has happened. So no more students, no more activity on campus from the student standpoint. Everyone's learning from home. Have made that transition. It's pretty seamless, and it was a pretty awesome semester in terms of, if you talk about the COVID situation, not ideal, especially for the student athletes who had their seasons moved. But from a standpoint of health and keeping safe from the COVID virus, I mean, it was pretty amazing, and we feel blessed by that. I'll have Matt get into some of the details of some of the things that have happened through, with the conference. I'm not sure if that announcement was before our last show. I think it might have been, where he can give an update on what's happening with our winter sports and the tentative and the hopes of the rest of our sports for the spring. And I will turn it over to you, Matt, and then you can give an update and introduce our guest today.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So we're sort of wrapping up the semester. Our students have all gone home, as Jason said, and we're really thankful and blessed that we made it through the semester with 0 positive cases for COVID amongst our community here at Houghton, and pretty unusual as you were to compare that to a lot of other institutions that we were fortunate to make it through. And our teams were all able to sort of have their practice seasons and be a significant part of their fall experience. So that's been good. As the Empire 8 announced just before our students actually went home for break, that we are going to be competing in our winter seasons. So that for us, that means basketball and indoor track and field. We're planning to compete. Now, we're not going to be starting until the beginning of March. That's been the conference decision, sort of starting conference play for those sports. So it pushes it back into not a typical time that those sports would be competing. And so what we're doing now as a conference and sort of internally here at Houghton is just sort of making the plans to make that happen. And the conference is working on some collaborative scheduling to make all that work. Admittedly, it's going to be a crazy month of March and April and into May with all of our sports competing at the same time. And seasons are not going to look exactly the same, particularly our fall and winter sports that are going to be competing in the spring will be shorter seasons. And that's something our athletes all know and are aware of, and that's not a secret. And the philosophy a little bit is trying to maintain the spring sports as much as possible. I think there will be some minor adjustments to the lacrosse, baseball, softball sports, but they're the ones that lost their seasons entirely last spring due to COVID, and so we're trying to maintain those as much as we can. So practice is going to be interesting. Sharing facilities is going to be interesting with everybody ramping up for seasons all at the same time, and we're just committed to making it work and just doing a lot of work now, sort of in preparation for what the testing procedures and protocols are going to look like, and how we're going to make it all work. But we're excited that we're able to move forward, and that the conference has sort of made this decision, and we're looking forward to it. So our guest today, as Jason indicated, if we'd done this live, it would have been like 7 p.m. here, would be something like 2 or 3 in the morning for our guest. Gabe, I'll try and say your last name the right way. Van Wyk, is that right? That's
good enough.
Van Wyk is sort of how we say it here in North America, but I know that's not the appropriate or the completely accurate pronunciation. But Gabe is a student athlete at Houghton. He comes from Durban, South Africa. Gabe's a member of our men's soccer team. He actually did a little bit of indoor track his first year here. And Gabe's in South Africa right now and is going to be a senior no, you're a senior now, but you're coming back one more semester, I think, if that's as long as that hasn't changed. So Gabe will be here this spring and then again next fall, finishing up his time at Houghton. So thanks for being here, Gabe, and maybe tell us a little bit about what the weather's like in South Africa right now. For those that don't know, we're north of the equator, South Africa's south of the equator, so the seasons are sort of opposite, and we're getting into we're early December. We've got a little snow on the ground, but December in South Africa is summertime.
Oh, yeah. So this summer, now that I'm back, it's not the prettiest summer so far because so far, temperature, I still don't know the conversion of Celsius to Fahrenheit. I still work in Celsius. But today we're looking at an average of about 23, which I assume is about 70 plus Fahrenheit. I don't know exactly. So that's what it's like today. But we've had some rainy days. We got a gray sky today. So the weather's been a bit up here lately, but definitely get some warmth.
Well, that's warmer than Houghton. We're not
100%.
23. We're not in the 70s by any means. We're in the 30s and hoping to get into the 40s a little bit these days. So it's your favorite weather, Gabe. I know you're missing it. So
I love it. Yeah.
Well, hey, let's start off a little bit. You and I obviously know each other quite well, given our history, and we'll probably touch into that here a little bit. But why don't you start by telling us how you ended up at Houghton College from Durban, South Africa? What was the connection? What got you interested? How did that all transpire? I mean, I know some of the answer to this, but why don't you share with us sort of how you ended up choosing Houghton?
Yeah. So this question happens to be everyone's favorite question for me, which I've answered a number of times with regards to how did a city boy like Gabriel land up in Houghton College, which is claimed to be the typical saying in the middle of nowhere. How did I possibly find that? And the process behind that is very unique amongst other students, athletes, I would say. Number one, being an international, and number two, how I landed up there with a former Houghton athlete who was there for 3 months, Gift Matula. I played with him in a futsal tournament here in Durban, and he said to me, "Hey Gabe, like you better see that you get yourself out of South Africa." Like, and this is just after me playing at a high academy level down here, and I snapped my ankle. I was depressed, and I was like, I would love to restart anywhere. And I was on my way of coming back into the game and playing a lot of futsal, playing a lot of indoor, outdoor, just playing around as many places as I can get. And he said that I should try out America. And I was like, yeah, easier said than done. Like, how on earth are we going to make that possible for me? And he said that he was actually there as a student athlete and he knows some people that side. And he landed up giving me Coach Webb's email address, where I reached out to Coach Webb, sent him my video, sent him a long email, and I got a response, but I thought it was a scam at first, to be honest. So my first act on the response was to set up a Skype call to make sure I can see that this person is real, that Coach Webb actually exists, and that Houghton College actually exists. And after that, I landed up getting on a Skype call and followed the process the whole way of everything that Coach Webb and Kim Cockle had shared with me of what I need to do in order to see myself at Houghton College. And next thing I knew it, on a year later, after many financial struggles, different colleges, trying to go to every place, I found myself coming to Houghton College.
Yeah, I remember that process. It's sort of funny. You mentioned Gift. Gift had a different sort of tenure here at Houghton. Was only here for a couple months for a variety of reasons, and the fact that he shared with you and encouraged you to look at Houghton is sort of ironic. But
a lot of other colleges were interested.
I remember, yeah, and I remember those days of Skyping with you and your dad. I felt like I got to know your father quite well. I met your mother, but I think every call we had included your father, just about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun we Skyped quite a bit, didn't we?
Yes,
if I recall.
almost every 2 weeks or so.
Yeah. Now, what everybody does now is Zoom. It's almost like Skype is. I don't even know if people use Skype anymore. Zoom is sort of
That's Zoom.
the mode of communication. But yeah, so that was almost 4 years ago now.
Yep, 2017.
Talk with us a little bit about what's been the best part of being at Houghton. So you came here, you chose to come to this place that's out in the middle of nowhere compared to Durban. I've been to Durban. I know what Durban's like. It's right on the ocean. The water's warm. It's
Oh
beautiful.
yeah.
But what's been the best part? That's obviously a big transition. But you've stayed here. You're going to graduate from Houghton. Tell us about
Yeah.
how you fell in love with the place and why it's been so good.
So one of the things that I fell in love with the most is not the cold. Definitely not the cold is something that I do not enjoy. But besides from the cold, everything else has been a pro. So the main thing I would say of my favorite experience being a memorable experience, which was a season, you could say, was definitely finding community that actually happened to be so strong. Like my friends at Houghton, if you take them out of Houghton, chances are I would consider leaving also. Like I think the people there are just simply amazing on a whole new level, and probably some of the best friends I've had in my possible life. Like that is something that really drew me in, made me feel welcome, especially as an international student coming from Durban, South Africa. Coming to Houghton and having such people to connect to, I think was one of the most brilliant things for me, for my adjustments and my transition coming from a place like this to a place like Houghton. As much as it's in the middle of nowhere, I think it isolated me to actually get to know my peers a lot more. Not to say forcefully, but wanting to do it more because I just wanted to know them so much more because they're just such amazing people. So, yeah, that I think would be the number one reason that I would consider staying at Houghton another year after trying to leave.
Well, and you actually did that one time, didn't you? Tried to leave, and
Almost two.
we sucked you back in. It's
Yep.
interesting to hear you say that because that's something that I say all the time when people ask me what's sort of unique about Houghton. And we use the word community, but a lot of people use the word community. Um,
Yeah.
and so what does that really look like at Houghton? And I think, as I've shared with folks, I have a younger brother that attended Houghton. I didn't go to Houghton. I went to another institution similar to Houghton, but not Houghton. But the intimacy of the relationships that students have at Houghton, I think, is really unique. And I use that word cautiously because people equate intimacy oftentimes with sort of romantic equation, but that's not what I mean. It's not about dating relationships. I just think the intimacy of relationships, the depth of relationship that happens here, and I think sometimes the location helps that, feeds
Helps with
that,
that. Yeah.
because there's not other things to do. And so, just hanging out and investing in relationship really, really happens. So I'm glad to hear I knew that, but that you've experienced that and that's a key piece of keeping you here.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
well, Gabe, you've had sort of a unique sort of track record in your time at Houghton so far, and you've actually had some experiences sort of that took you away for a bit while you were doing some other things and studying online, and you've had sort of a unique journey through your time at Houghton. I'd be interested in hearing you. I know a little bit, but talk with us about your time and your involvement with Carry the Love and sort of where that's taken you and how you continue to be involved with Carry the Love. And I think for those that are listening, some might be like, what in the world's Carry the Love? So maybe give us some background on what that is and how you got involved and sort of what you're doing now.
Yeah. No, so Carry the Love is one of my favorite memories, also a seasonal memory where I got to leave Houghton for a half semester, and then COVID hits, of course, but I was supposed to stay there for the whole semester. Um, and whilst I was before I get into that, backtrack about what Carry the Love is. Carry the Love is a grassroots movement which was founded a couple of years ago by a guy by the name of Nick Brent, where he had this vision of seeing young people across America come to know Jesus. And he decided to act on that vision that God had given him and start off at the University of Southern California, where they threw an event. For the event, long story short, they got almost the whole campus there on the yard in the front, one of the main areas. And they were fake DJing the whole time, bringing in a crowd with music. And afterwards, they landed up sharing the gospel. And the questions that were asked at that time was, has any one of you been misrepresented? Has any one of you been misunderstood? And the whole place just went quiet. And the response afterwards, like we just saw hands go up the whole time. And the response to the hands going up was, what if Jesus has been misrepresented to you and misunderstood? And I think for a lot of people in college, they have that misinterpretation of who Jesus is and this misunderstanding of who he is. So Carry the Love is a movement which youngsters from across America, people who are just finishing high school, people who are in college, who would jump in a van and travel across America preaching the gospel to college students across the whole nation, and now possibly reaching into other nations. We've already gone to Africa in Kenya. We've already gone through Europe, off to New Zealand next year. So the movement is carrying and growing every single day. And for me, fortunately enough, I got to be a part of that, where I had a team down through Southern California, where I got to hop in a van with everyone. I helped lead worship. I was playing bass for the team. And every 2 to 3 nights, we were at a new college, just doing the same thing over and over and over. We see a need, we meet it with love, and repeat. And that's the model of what Carry the Love is to see the need. There are people out there who are in need and dying hunger for Jesus. And we're going to meet that need with a simple act of love and a simple act of faith, stepping out into communities, into college campuses, which isn't the easiest scenery to be involved in. But we've seen some of the most amazing testimonies come out of that, of just simple obedience, of acting out in faith, and just seeing people get encountered day in, day out. So that's a little bit about Carry the Love. I got to be a part of that movement, and I'm probably going to continue moving forward with them. My goal is to bring them to South Africa too, which might happen next year.
Well, if I recall, didn't you try and pull off an event in South Africa maybe a couple of years ago when you were home? Or maybe I'm making that up in my head.
No, that is true. Not try and pull it off. I did pull it off.
You did pull it off. Okay.
Yes.
So what does
that event was just a picture that I got down here in South Africa also, where there was a lot of people who heard about what had happened when I preached at my old church. A lot of people got saved, a lot of people got encountered, and they wanted me to come and speak at their churches. So I was like, I don't know if I can do that. Time is not of the essence right now. So I just felt the Lord tell me, bring all of them together in simple unity. So what I done was, everyone who wanted me to come speak there, I reached out to them and said, hey, why don't you come on this day? Which landed up bringing all 4 to 5 different ministries coming together one day. And that was the event that I held.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's I know it's something you've been real passionate about, and in many ways has really changed your life. What's Carry the Love look like on Houghton's campus right now? I know I think we had a group that came a few years ago for an event. Do we have any sort of formal organization on campus right now, or is it just you're sort of involved in the organization, but just from a distance?
Yeah, so Carry the Love at Houghton College, what it looks like is someone as a host, which happens to be me now. But Emily Hornerbrook came with the first group when Carry the Love came for the first time, which was my freshman year. And ever since that year, they came the second year, they came the third year. They couldn't come this last year because of COVID, but schools had closed. But there's no specific organization on campus that represents Carry the Love, because Carry the Love just comes in every season. They'll just come do a visit, and that's it. So they'll come do a 2-day stay at the campus. They'll throw what the night looks like as a simple night one as worship and the gospel. And the second day, we'll gather with everyone again, and we'll do an evangelistic call throughout the whole campus. So people who want to learn how to evangelize, if people want to learn how to share the gospel in unique, specific ways, you could say. We do a session for about an hour to an hour and a half, just training on simple steps of how you can do that. This is a way
Mhm.
you can share your testimony and relate it to Jesus also. That's what we do on day 2. And the night of day 2, we gather again for a very small, intimate time of just worship with everyone who was there from night 1 and the evangelism call. And we just chase after the presence for night 2 also.
That's awesome. No, that's great to hear. Let's transition a little bit, sort of lighter question. Share with us a little bit about what were some of the biggest cultural adjustments you had to make from coming from South Africa. I mean, you already alluded to maybe one of the biggest ones, from the heat to the cold, but maybe from the city to the rural. But what are some other adjustments you had to make when you landed in little Houghton, New York, and began to understand what Houghton was like?
So there's a lot of things that I found myself getting into, you could say, trouble for certain things, the way you act out. And for me, what that looked like, for just a few of them, my biggest one was probably mannerisms, which I wasn't so familiar with, which is not everyone, but I think just the typical understanding and style. Like for me, coming from such a cultural, not to say not a community, but a different sense of community, like a very, I know they use this word in America, a very individualistic culture as America. And for us, it's not that. It's the complete opposite, which I can't think of the word right now. But not individualistic. Um, and for people to respond with answers like no so often, for me, wasn't the greatest feeling for me. I was like, what, do you not want to hang around or something? Like, no, they'd so rather go do their homework. And I'm like, man, you can do your homework later. Like, no, I have an assignment. Like, yeah, you can do it later. It's not that deep. So things like that were a big one. I wasn't used to going to visit someone and they wouldn't walk me out. That's something we do every single time. If a visitor comes, like, we'll walk them out to their car. I was like, okay, we say goodbye at the door over here. That was something that I wasn't used to. Checkups for when people arrive at home. I was like if I would go visit someone and then I'd arrive back home, like not expecting a message on my phone was like, does this person even care? Like, because usually how it is down here is like, did you get home safely? Like, let me know when you're home. And for me, if I would say to someone also, if they came to where we were and they went home, I'd hey, are you home? They're like, yes, I got home like an hour ago. I was like, you didn't message me, like you didn't let
That's
me know.
interesting.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I am stressing that you didn't get home. So it's like, okay, we got to start panicking. Like, that's stuff, like very minor things which really I didn't realize has such complete changes in certain cultures. So that was some struggles that I had. I just thought people didn't care. In the meantime, that's just how they are. But they do
No,
care.
that's interesting to hear. I hadn't heard that before. Walking someone to your car versus saying goodbye at the door. Well, you know why we do that is because it's cold here, Gabe.
In the cold, rainy day over here, we will walk them
Even
to
in the
their car.
cold. Yeah. And that idea of checking in, texting, I got here okay. I resonate with that as a parent. Like I do that with my kids. Did you get there okay? Are you
Yes.
home? That kind of thing happens. But yeah, you're right. Not with other folks.
Yep.
Don't check and make sure someone got home or arrived safely. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, those are some big ones that I had to adjust to, because in the beginning I was like speaking to one of my friends. I was like, do people just not care about your safety or what? Like, I thought these were my friends. Like, they're supposed to care about me. Like, I'm
Yeah,
doing it
yeah.
for them, and I would expect the same from them. So it's like expectations weren't met.
No, that's interesting. So Gabe, let's wrap things up. But this is probably the least favorite question for any college student, particularly as you're nearing graduation. But what are your plans when you're done? Are you hoping to stay in the States? Are you planning to get back home, to stay at home? What are you planning to do?
I kind of like that question. It makes me think a lot. But what that looks like for me, number one, I do want to go full time with Carry the Love. It's definitely something that I see myself going to do for quite a long season of my life. How long, I do not know. Um, just living out with them, also staffing with them, teaching younger kids the same roots that I was taught, the foundation, laying it out for them, and then possibly leading a team across America also in a specific region is probably what I'm looking to do as a number one priority. Whether I do that in South Africa is me. I just want to be a part of them and just do the work wherever I'm called to go, which I don't mind anyway. If I can stay in America, bonus plus, that is my first preference. If I come back home and do it, I'll still be a happy person because I'll have amazing food down here at the same time.
Pop and Vorse
Oh yes, it's Friday today. We might have that tonight.
out on the barbecue. Yeah, that'd be great.
Right.
Well, Gabe, thanks for joining us. Your screen actually froze for us. I don't know what it looks like for you, but we can hear you fine. So hang on. But I just want to say I've appreciated you being at Houghton. I really enjoyed being your coach for your first 2 years, and the relationship that we were able to build during that time and have maintained. And so I've enjoyed your passion, your energy, what you bring to not only what you brought to the team when I was coaching and what you bring to the team now with Coach McCall, but what you bring to our campus. And you're a magnet. People are drawn to you, and I think you've so much to offer. And I'm encouraged to hear that you're continuing to follow the Lord's leading in your life. And if Carry the Love sounds like that's where it's leading you, that's awesome. And I want to encourage you in that and affirm that in you, that God can use you. You're a person of influence, and be that person of influence for God's glory, and to see others come to know the Lord. So I'm just really encouraged to hear that you're following the Lord that way. So thanks for being with us, Gabe, and enjoy the next 2 months still before we come back to Houghton that you've got in South Africa. Just under 2 months, I guess, but enjoy
Yes,
it.
I'll enjoy this summer as best as I can.
Very good. Very good. Well, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Take care.